It takes to get to Neptune.
Yeah.
If you go at the speed of light,
The speed of light?
at the speed of light, it would take like 4.5 hours to get to Neptune. And that's the fastest anything can go in the universe,
Yeah,
is the speed of light.
light.
And it would still take 4.5 hours to get to Neptune. So going at our speed, it would take years. It would take many, many years.
At the speed of sound.
Yeah. For some perspective, it goes Earth, Mars, and then Jupiter,
Yeah.
right? We just sent a probe to Jupiter, like this year, that's not going to be there until 2030 or so. So it's going to take 6 years for it to get there, just to Jupiter. And then there's Saturn, Uranus, and then Neptune. And the further out you go, the more spaced out the planets are.
Well, what about this theory of we're traveling like this, but you can jump across it?
Yeah,
What's
like a
that
wormhole.
called? What's that called?
A wormhole.
Yeah, a wormhole.
Yeah. So there's this theory that when you go inside of a black hole,
Yeah.
it's possible that there's like a wormhole, like a white hole on the other side that sort of just pops you out. But it's very theoretical.
Theoretical.
It's
yeah.
theoretical because what they find is when they do the math and they crunch the numbers,
Yeah.
they find that you can't, like, those structures aren't stable inside of black holes. Like, wormholes aren't particularly stable, so they won't exist in nature, really.
So their theory then.
Yeah, they only exist on chalkboards, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wormholes are a theory.
Mm-hmm.
And how, I wonder, who came up with the theory?
That's a great question.
Long after Einstein.
I imagine it was somebody like Einstein or Stephen Hawking or somebody that was studying the physics of black holes.
Years ago, it was on, I think, once a month or once a week. Stephen Hawking used to be on lecturing.
Yeah,
I
remarkable.
used to watch that all the time.
Yeah,
Has he passed?
he has. He passed in like 2018 or something, I think.
And what was he crippled with?
He had ALS.
He did.
Yeah. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some crippling disease.
Yeah, he was a remarkable
He
scientist,
was
though.
remarkable.
Yeah. He's the one that found out that black holes don't last forever. They actually kind of evaporate. They radiate, which is weird. Yeah.
And, we're like primitives scratching the surface.
It's true.
I mean, the brilliant minds for eons of time after us will still be. It's so vast. And of course, the typical person would ask, nothing has an end. There's got to be something beyond it.
Yeah.
You talk about the end of the universe. Well, what's out there?
Yeah.
It's not a big solid brick wall. It's got to be
No.
more space, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know. The answer is we don't.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, right? Because
Beyond the universe.
the universe is expanding, right? But yeah, people think like, what is it expanding into, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it's
More
the idea
space.
that the space itself is expanding. So the only reason that we're not torn apart by the expansion of the universe is because our atoms are held together too firmly, right? It's a very vague expansion. And so it makes galaxies move apart from each other, but it doesn't tear galaxies apart. And
But it's just a fascinating thought.
mhm.
Theoretically, you travel to the edge of our known universe, but like you say, it's expanding. Maybe you can never catch up.
Yeah, you can't catch up. And it doesn't quite work like that. Like, it depends on the geometry of our universe, right? Like, if the universe is flat, then yeah, you keep going, and you can't reach the end, but maybe, I don't know, we don't know what's out there. But if we live in spherical geometry, then it's possible that you just loop your way back around and you end up where you started. Like, if you send yourself in one direction, you might just end up back where you started eventually. But the problem is that the universe is far too large for any of that to matter at all.
Exactly.
Because our galaxy alone is 100,000 light years across. So if you were to go at the speed of light, take 100,000 light years to get across it.
Our galaxy alone is?
Yeah.
How many known galaxies are? They don't know. There's galaxies beyond galaxies.
We've cataloged like billions of galaxies, but there are trillions in just the observable universe. I think they estimate like 2 or 3 trillion in just the observable universe.
And it would take how long to get across our galaxy?
Just our galaxy would be 100,000 years if you're going at the speed of light. And the next closest galaxy is 4 million light years away. So
It's just dimensions that are hard for people that live in a few miles and hours
yeah,
to comprehend.
yeah, exactly.
It's
That's why astronomers use weird units, you know?
Jesus,
It's crazy stuff.
it's fascinating stuff.
It is. What do you think we would find at the edge of the universe?
What do you think? What?
What do you think you would find at the edge of the universe?
The end of the universe, of the total universe, so all the galaxies.
Yeah, like what do you think is out there?
Beyond all the galaxies? More of the same, I guess.
Yeah.
More of the same.
What do you think started it all?
I don't know. I'm a bit of an atheist. You know. No, I'm not an atheist. That's too smug. But I am, no, because I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm a bit of an agnostic.
Yeah.
I mean, just the ancient little parables and all for simple people. I just don't buy those.
I think that's wise.
Pardon?
I think that's wise.
I mean, but it comforts some people, so good for them.
I'm super envious of people that can believe in that. Like, imagine how nice that must be.
Just don't worry about a fucking thing.
Exactly.
Go up to heaven and float with them.
Yeah. If only.
And then for the agnostics, Kanye, you were preached to as a child. But I mean, it's ancient things. A devil down there in hell with ears and a red tail.
Mm-hmm.
It's just myth. To me, it's myth. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a smug atheist.
Yeah, being a full believer either way is pretty...
Yeah, it's like what we just talked about the universe. I don't have the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is some powerful spirit, but it just kind of defies reason when you're not talking myth.
Yeah.
The first little creatures on the earth came out of the ocean, supposedly.
Yeah.
And we eventually, after millions of years, they evolved into us.
Yeah.
So what are we evolving into? Doesn't everything keep evolving?
It does. It does. That's a common misconception that, like, humans are done evolving or...
And this is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No.
It's not how it works. And
No.
it's a misconception that humans are more evolved than anything else. Like that
Yeah.
we evolved to adapt to our environment in the way that we did, and goldfish did the same to adapt to their own environment. We're not more evolved or less evolved. We're just
Yeah.
differently evolved.
Exactly,
You know?
yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
another fascinating subject.
Right?
I wonder. And then when they show aliens, they show these little egg-shaped people with great big eyes. No one knows what an alien would look like coming from millions of miles away.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
If they could travel.
Yeah.
But you know, it's possible. It's possible that we're like primitives compared to
It's possible.
some civilization out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be fascinating to see.
Right. I mean, like, life on Earth is a few billion years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we're in a universe that's almost 14 billion years old.
Yeah.
So what about life that started 10 billion years ago
Yeah.
instead of 3? You know? Like, they would be ridiculously evolved. But also, where are they? Why don't we have any signs of them? Well, the universe is incredibly vast, and it's difficult to get from one place to another, so that might be the answer.
Well, I would presume that we're not the only place in the universe that has sun and water.
No, we're not. We're not even the only place in the solar system that has water.
Yeah.
Water is all over the solar system.
Yeah. And is it possible that there are other suns, planets that are suns beside our own sun?
Mm-hmm.
Our sun is in our galaxy.
Yeah.
Well, if there's millions of galaxies, there must be millions of suns.
Yeah, so our sun is at the center of our solar system, right? All of the planets orbit around it.
Right.
And every star that you see in the night sky is a sun just like our own. It's a star. And so on average, every star has at least one planet. So every single star that you see up in the night sky has planets orbiting around it.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that they're just like our sun. In fact, our sun is very average. It's a very normal star.
So when you're way out, if you went far enough out in space, our sun would appear as a star. In a dark.
Exactly.
With all the suns, how come the void is black and dark?
That is a really good question.
Jesus, I mean.
That's a very famous question. That's something that people wondered about for a long time, because if you think about the night sky full of stars, right?
Yeah.
And how vast the universe is, in every direction there should be a star that you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
And if that light is coming towards us, why isn't the whole sky bright?
Yeah.
You know? And the reason is that the speed of light is finite. So it takes time for that light to get to us. And then that, in combination with the fact that the universe is expanding, means that there are dark patches because stuff is farther away than it could have taken the light to get to us. It's hard to think about, but the reason that not everything's bright is because the speed of light is finite and everything's moving away from us. It's pretty remarkable stuff. But that's a very interesting question, right? That's a famous one.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, they're just, when you let your mind just wander through it, those type of questions come up.
Mm-hmm.
What about odors? Are there any odors in the universe?
Yeah, so, odor...
Well, like we can smell our oxygen,
Yeah.
Our air has a beautiful aroma to it.
Yeah. So odor is...
Because we have trees, I guess, and
Yeah.
plants.
So odor is a result of gas interacting with our noses, right?
Right.
And so where there's gas, I suppose there's odor.
Yeah.
And gas is all over the place. And most of the universe is hydrogen and helium. So whatever hydrogen and helium smells like is probably what most of the universe smells like.
Yeah. So many questions come up, though, that you could drive a mad scientist crazy. Collier? Like my what's the intrinsic value of that equal sign that it changes things? What do those parentheses have in them?
Collier?
When you remove the parentheses. Collier, just remove them.
That sounds about right.
Drive the old math teacher crazy.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Now trig was easy because you pictured something.
Yeah. It's the
Geometry
algebra.
and trig, no problem.
Yeah.
But algebra,
Yeah.
me that shit.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Because I just didn't want to accept just the memorized thing. This happens when this happens. Why?
Yeah.
Why is space dark? If there's so many stars out there.
Yeah.
That is a fascinating idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I see something. I wonder about the, but I never thought of every star being a sun.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, and so in our galaxy has a few 100 billion stars.
Yeah.
And each a star
Just
is a sun.
Our galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, a lot of this was not understood at all by teachers when we were in school 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So much more has been learned.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the knowledge that galaxies are galaxies is only 100 years old.
Really?
So,
Really? Who?
yeah, it was in 1924 exactly that.
We understood about galaxies.
Yeah.
Holy shit! 10 years before I was born.
Yeah. Before that, we just thought they were nebulae. We
Yeah.
thought that they were just clouds of gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the astronomer Edwin Hubble looked at this specific type of star that pulses. It's called a Cepheid
Pulsars.
variable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you see them in other galaxies, you can tell how bright they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to how bright you measure it. And based off of that, you can find out how far away something is. So Hubble looked at those Cepheid variable stars in other galaxies and realized, oh, shoot, they're millions of light years away. That's not within our own galaxy. Those have to be galaxies of their own.
He's another Hawking, isn't he? Hubble.
Yeah, Hubble was an impressive guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had a lot of people working with him, and he kind of had a tendency to get all of the credit when there were a lot of other people working.
Of course.
But he
Team
was,
behind him.
yeah,
Absolutely.
certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he
Is
was
he gone? Is Hubble gone?
Mhm. But now we have the Hubble Space Telescope that's named after him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The Hubble Space Telescope. Absolutely. Jeez.
It's wild stuff, eh?
It is wild stuff. You're in an interesting business.
Yeah, this is what I love to think about.
Be nice if you make a good bit of money along with it, but just the interest.
Yeah,
You go to work with a great interest.
yeah, even if topics like this isn't how I end up making money, it'll always captivate me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all your life they'll be discovering new things, fascinating
It's true.
things about the universe. But God, I never realized the numbers you're quoting of galaxies.
It's a lot of zeros. Yeah. Like one of my I love to do this in so at the planetarium I run K-12 groups. So like I have kids that come in and I run labs and shows for them, right?
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is like show them how many zeros it is we're talking about, right?
How many what?
How many zeros, like after the number, right?
Really?
So our galaxy, let's say, has 100 billion stars. That's how many stars are in the galaxy. 1,000 million, billion, 100 billion. And then there are 1 trillion, let's say, galaxies themselves. So to add those numbers together, right, you add all the zeros, so it's 100, 1, 2, 3. So that's how many stars there are in the observable universe, right?
And what's the number called?
1,000 million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, sunk. I don't know what 5, 6. Like it's whatever the 6.
But there are other terms for.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And then it's like 100, and then if you want to think about how many planets there are, you multiply this by whatever 2 or 3, and so that's a lot of zeros.
But kids must like to make a copy of that so they can impress their friends.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's like
Jesus.
because when you start talking about like, okay, what's the difference between 1,000 and 1,000,000,
Yeah.
right? 1,000 thousands is 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And then to get to 1 billion from 1,000,000, 1 billion is 1,000 millions. So the zeros just keep adding, and then eventually you just lose sight of what.
Of course.
And that's where like,
I mean, there again, it's beyond comprehension.
yeah. And that's where people don't really understand, like when they say Elon Musk has a net worth of $150 billion.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 times more than somebody who has a net worth of $150 million, you know?
Yeah.
So he's literally 3 orders of magnitude wealthier than
Yeah.
somebody that's just a millionaire, you know?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, but it's like theorizing about space. You get to a point where we cannot comprehend that type of value, number.
Yeah.
We have nothing to compare it. We're okay up to maybe 1 billion or so.
Yeah,
After that, it gets a little bit fuzzy.
it does. Certainly. Certainly.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I just love showing the
Oh,
zeros.
kids must love that.
Yeah.
How young are some of the kids you talk to?
It's K-12, so they could be as young as like 6. And then
Wonderful.
say it's like 6 to 18 or something like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And those are just the K-12 groups.
No,
Then
but
I do public shows
wonderful that some little kid, because 2 or 3 out of 100 in there will be little geniuses,
Right?
taking it all in
too. They blow my mind sometimes.
with questions. They
Yeah,
ask.
they are so clever.
Yeah.
And what's unfortunate is when you work with kids from like 6 to 18,
Yeah.
you get to see it change, because somewhere around like late middle school,
Yeah.
they lose it. They can't
I agree.
they can't think
The
anymore.
children, the babies, the grammar school kids still have a completely unbiased mind.
Yes, precisely.
They're not afraid to ask the question.
But that's what makes me so happy when I do public shows where it's adults. And if I'm able to get the adults to ask kid questions,
Like-
I'm so happy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like like the question about why isn't the sky bright all the time?
Yeah.
That's such a good question, and it's a
Yeah.
famous one. It's a paradox that people
But
couldn't solve
see,
forever.
Adults, unlike kids, they're afraid they'll sound stupid if they ask it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a stupid question.
Yeah.
But a child will ask it.
Yeah. It's true.
I asked my algebra professor.
Yeah.
It's fucking parentheses and
Yeah.
equal sign.
Yeah. What is the intrinsic value of an
What's the
equal
intrinsic
sign?
value of those? Goddamn that they changed the equation. Drove the poor bastard crazy. He probably wasn't smart enough to understand himself.
Yeah.
He had memorized it.
Well, that's the thing. When you become a specialist,
Yeah.
you stop thinking about what actually it all means.
Exactly, yeah.
Um,
But anyway, I'm a mathematician. I love the poetry class, so
yeah. Yeah. That was your
I'm
jam.
just a romantic poet.